Okay, what's up, everybody? Good morning. Welcome to a Tuesday edition of Morning Scone, presented by Brock, the Baton Rouge Orthopedic Clinic, Parish Construction and Roofing. If you need an orthopedist, go to Brock. Need a roof? Call Parish. Unique physique and unique aesthetics and wellness. Restored Motions, restoredmotions.com, Bocock Brothers. Premium cigars. Use the code MAT15, 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 15% off your order. Okay, what up, y'all? Good morning. Hope your week's off to an awesome start. Lane Kiffin had a press conference on Monday. It'll probably be his only media availability of the week because there's no SEC teleconference on Wednesday. Thursday's Thanksgiving, so he's not going to have media availability. And then they play Friday morning. So we probably won't hear from Lane Kiffin again until Thursday after the game. On-field interview, maybe, but probably after the game. So, he basically dodged every question. It was actually pretty funny because he was kind of polite and being like, "That's a fair question. I'm not going to answer it, but fair question." Over and over again. My contention, though, is I think, and I have a today's Locked On. There was one answer he gave that was like a really long, detailed answer about speaking at his dad's funeral and how he didn't understand why they moved so much when he was a kid because it was really hard on the family. But at his dad's funeral, he realized like all these people came together and it was God's plan. And basically saying it's okay to move, even if it's hard on your family and stuff like that. So kind of dropping hints. But let's see, I think this was, hang on, let me see. This was fun.
How important is it to you to finish out?
Oh, and it's this one.
Lane, Keith released a statement on Friday saying that you, him, and Chancellor Boyce had a meeting about your future. Are you able to elaborate on the nature of that meeting at all?
Yeah, like I said at the beginning, very fair question, but we're not answering anything that doesn't have to do with the game and the team and the season. But fair question.
Very fair question. Fair question. Oh, wait, there was another one. Let's see if this was it. Hang on.
When Keith says expects a decision on Saturday, is that a decision that's been made, or is that still in consideration? Like, people are just curious about that.
Yeah, so, I mean, you can just keep going. I'm not going to answer them, so that's 3 of them. You got another one?
This is the other one.
You mentioned on Pat McAfee how you don't make decisions based on money. When you do make your decisions, what are the considerations for you then, especially when it comes to football decisions, right? Like, what are you thinking about?
Yeah, very fair question, but I'm not going into it because, like I said at the beginning, I'm going to keep this to this team and in this game.
Very fair question. It's so good. I mean, you got to ask, even if he's not going to answer them. Anyway, so there's that. Meanwhile, Frank Wilson had a press conference to meanwhile, Frank Wilson had a press conference to preview the Oklahoma game, which, man, considering, think about this, y'all, the timeline of that game on Saturday. Sorry. You got a radio interview scheduled for 8:30. Sorry. Anyway, considering the timing of the game, so LSU is going to play at 2:30 on Saturday. So Ole Miss is supposed to release a statement or have an announcement about Lane Kiffin's future on Saturday. Like, what if that's Saturday morning or Saturday at noon? Like, we may get the Lane Kiffin announcement before the LSU game, and then nobody's going to actually be paying attention at all to the LSU game, which is stunning but appropriate. All right. Let's say some good mornings. So Nussmeier looks like doubtful. Braylon Moore, Ori Williams, Tyree Adams, all doubtful. Looks like Aaron Anderson could play. Mansour Delane, questionable. So Delane, I think I told y'all this yesterday, has like the abdominal issue. And I found out yesterday he's actually been dealing with that all year. But he's just managed it medically to be able to play. So it's kind of even more incredible that he's had the season he's had. Just getting like injections and things like that to be able to go play. Anyway, that's amazing. So, so Delane is quite, up in the air for this weekend. We'll see. And who else was the other one? Caden Durham. I'm not sure on him. They said it was he got hit on the neck, and so it was just really sore. Excuse me. Okay, let's say some good mornings. My apologies. I'll stop getting distracted. My phone's blowing up. Hey, Trivia, good morning. Tiger Diver, morning. Making the drive from DFW to NOLA. Seems like the Clemson media should take notes from the Ole Miss media on how to ask good questions. It'd be all right. It'd be good to go. No Sweat Sports, good morning. Kelly, good morning. What up, man? Good morning. Bradlin, morning, Matt. Can you imagine how motivated and determined Lane Kiffin will be walking into the school he chose right after leaving the team he got to the playoffs? Watch out, CFB. I hope so. I hope that's the case, provided he picks LSU. If he picks Florida, then I hope that's not the case. Hey, Big Vanilla, good morning. Scott Bergeron, good morning. Fish, what up, man? Good morning. Jaleel Dean, morning. Your Baker hoodie tweet had me insanely nervous. I was just having some fun. So I talked to Blake Baker before the game, and he has the gold hoodie on. And so I was like, all right, bro, like, where do you get this? He goes, man, I'm sorry to say. It's like it's a one-of-one coaches issued thing that they made for me, whatever. So it's not something you could find at retail. So I tweeted last night. I was like, I think I shared it on Facebook too, and everything. It was like, bad news to LSU fans. And I had like a picture of Blake Baker from Saturday. Like, bad news, LSU fans. What we all feared, I've confirmed, spoke to Blake Baker before the game, we all feared is true. The gold hoodie is a one-of-one, and it's not available for retail sales. Like, come on, Nike, do the right thing. Anyway, so the responses were hilarious. Let's see. Chippin 32, sources say Lane Auburn on a... Okay, got it. Great. Thanks. Thomas, what up, Thomas? Good morning. We'll get to day 28. Hey, Ben. SEC shorts hitting at Kiffin to Bama. Okay. Carrie, how different do you think the Kiffin situation would be if Ole Miss was playing for the SEC championship? I think he would want to delay and coach in that game. And listen, my understanding is LSU has told him from the beginning they will wait through the college football playoff. Like, LSU is not pressuring Lane Kiffin for a decision. Just look at the contrast of Ole Miss, which are the fans have completely turned on him. Players have turned on him. They've set a deadline for his decision. We heard the ultimatum talk, like all that sort of stuff. Boosters, everybody. LSU's like, we'll wait to the end of the playoff. You're our guy. We want you. We'll wait. We'll wait to the end of the playoff. You take care of your business, and then when you're ready, come on over. and how different the approach is. Now, I hope that approach doesn't end up biting LSU, because if you end up not getting Kiffin, if he stays at Ole Miss, goes to Florida, whatever. Now, I don't think he's going to do either of those, but if he does, I've told you, it ain't over till it's over. And then you have to pivot to whoever's next. Well, is the coaching pool thinned out a little bit here? Have guys taken other jobs? Corey, morning, Matt. I need this Lane Kiffin stuff over so I can get back to my life. If we don't land him, please not drink. Corey, tell you something, man. You say you need to get back to your life? Brother. I mean, what do you think my life has been like over the last month? But I get it. Joel One, what's up, man? Thank you. Thanks for watching and listening, man. Morning. Time to rise and shine. Every day is a blank canvas, paint a masterpiece. Love that. Club, what up, dude? Good morning. Dale, wing twice if Kiffin deal is done. I'm telling you, it's not done. Like, you can even have a verbal agreement, which I believe they do. I believe they have a verbal agreement in place with Kiffin and LSU. But until you have something binding, signed, you do not have a deal. So, like, you've got to get to Saturday without something weird happening to rock the boat. Morning, Matt. With Golding being from Hammond, I wonder if he influences Lane's decision. Could being at LSU be a dream job for Golding? I wouldn't classify it. I actually know the answer to this. I wouldn't classify it necessarily as a dream job, although Pete Golding's family still has a ton of family in Hammond, in the Hammond area, and his preference among their options is to come home. Now, Pete Golding's wife is from North Mississippi, and her family is there as well. So I think that's challenging. Because as I understand it, she likes to be, I mean, she's there by her family. Now his family is in Hammond. And I do believe Pete Golding would end up coming with Lane Kiffin. It would be a huge upset if he didn't, because he's not going to get, if Lane leaves, Pete Golding is not going to get the Ole Miss job. He's not likely to get the Ole Miss job, which means he would come with Lane. So then everyone says, what happens with Blake Baker? That's a great question. I believe, as I connect the dots and play this out, I think John Sumrall is going to get one of these jobs. He's going to get Auburn or Florida, or so. He's going to get a big job. And and when Tulane comes open, then I think Tulane would hire Blake Baker. Just a guess, but that's how I think it would play out. Jared, morning, Scone. Thanks for all you do. Why is Florida picking up speed? Is it the media or a long shot? I don't know that Florida is picking up speed or steam. Like, the only people talking about Florida are Florida media. I mean, Pete Thamel on College Game Day on Saturday said Florida is just a tertiary option right now, that it is an LSU Ole Miss decision. I mean, the only people talking about Florida are Florida people. So Patrick, morning, Matt and Drew. Happy Tuesday. Let's make it a blessed one. Coffee time. I don't think I didn't notice the Latte Larry's mug from yesterday's show. Did I have my Latte Larry's mug yesterday? Did I? I love that mug, but I didn't realize I was using that yesterday. Scott, I know you're saying they are behind, but Florida's confidence is making me nervous. I have a feeling why. So I've told you that I think the Florida media is about 7 to 10 days behind the news cycle. When this is over, I'll explain more. Hey, Guy Brooks, good morning. Sean, good morning, Matt and Drew. Did Burns sway you at all on drink? No, not at all. Zero. And my point on Eli Drinkwitz, so like if for whatever reason you don't land Kiffin, Drinkwitz would be a perfectly fine option for me if it weren't for his $9 million contract at Missouri. Like, that's the problem for me. Like, well, there's many problems, but that's the primary problem. You're talking about a coach who is 1-9 against top 10 opponents, 6-16 against ranked opponents. I believe has an artificially inflated win-loss record because of how they schedule, which is exactly what they should do at Missouri, by the way. But if he's making $9 million at Missouri, you're going to pay him 10, 11, 12 million bucks to come be the LSU coach for Eli Drinkwitz? What are we doing there? Like, I would rather you go pay John Summerall $5 to $7 million and give him an incentive-laden deal and hire that dude who could be your coach for the next 20 years. Like, give me that guy. I am bullish on that decision. If it's not Lane for whatever reason, like, Summerall is my next choice. Hey, Jesse, good morning. Frank, good morning. Trey, good morning. I hate Florida fans, especially this past week. Gosh, it's bad. They're bad. They're a bad group. They're a really bad lot. If Groupie is Charlie Brown, Lucy is any regular season NFL game. Kyrie, what up, man? Olave must have heard you with the contested catches he's been making lately. Still in favor of taking a true X receiver. I think everyone forgets he was drafted to play alongside Michael Thomas. I don't know that Olave is making contested catches. He's just getting way more targets. Olave had 13 targets. He had 9 catches on 13 targets Sunday. Not 9 for 70 yards. Awesome. For 70 yards. And then against Carolina, he had 5 catches on 8 targets. 13 targets. Morning, Drew Matt. Go Tigers. Thank you, man. Good morning. Shane, Ole Miss media guys don't seem to see the difference between a school like LSU and Ole Miss. I get it. It's nobody ever wants to acknowledge they're lesser than. I get it. Like, you think Oklahoma people were excited when Lincoln Riley left them for USC? The Alabama people didn't feel jilted. They did when Franchione left them for A&M 20 years ago. Like, I think Florida State people were upset when Jimbo left them for A&M. I mean, he'd won a national championship at Florida State and left. I mean, nobody wants to think they're lesser than, but the proof is in the pudding. Hey, Brad, good morning. If a coach starts a press conference saying he won't answer a question, do you think it's unprofessional for reporters to keep asking that question? No, it's 100% your job because you can't assume the answer and you never know what he might say. It is your job. Like, the reason you are credentialed is to ask those questions. Like, if you go into that press conference with Lane Kiffin, with all of this stuff bouncing around, and you don't ask him the questions about the thing that are the most obvious thing in the world that everybody wants to know about, like, if you don't go in there asking questions about the statement the athletic director released or about his decision and all the different ways they asked it, like, you're not doing your job. So I commend all those people for actually going and continuing to ask him the questions that needed to be asked. He's a true 2 with the right setup. He could be good 2, even elite. Potential Pop versus Catholic matchup if Pop can get past Carr. Carr's good. Let's see. Morning. They always say players take the identity of their coach. Lane is literally saying there's no commitment in the way people think anymore when it comes to job opportunities. I don't get it. Let's see. Good morning, Matt. By the way, good on you getting the scoop on Blake's hoodie. Come on, Nike, get it together. I think he wants to leave. I don't think he wants to miss coaching the biggest sports game in Mississippi history. I feel like I've been saying the same thing for 2 weeks. Lane Kiffin wants to coach the remainder of the season, but he wants to leave after the season. Ole Miss is not going to let him coach the playoffs, which a lot of y'all melted when I said that 2 weeks ago. Why would they not let him coach? He's their best chance to win. Blah, 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 blah. And I told you they weren't going to let him coach. Tara Walker, good morning. Appreciate what you do and your prayers. I'm undergoing rotator cuff surgery 9 a.m. Okay, Tara, man, look, it's going to go great, I'm sure. Pray for blessings and safety for you, for your surgeon, that everything goes great. I'm sure it will. You know, the thing you learn about those dudes, those and ladies, the surgeons that perform those procedures, man, it might be the first time you've had rotator cuff surgery, but they'll probably do 10 of those today. So for them, it's like riding a bike, driving a car, man. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. We'll say prayers for you. Hey, Drew, hearing anything on the Florida side, why their entire media is confident about getting Lane? Yeah. I mean, I think I know the answer. I think something happened about a week, 10 days ago that they are just now finding out that they think is relevant now. When a lot has transpired since then, namely Lane Kiffin choosing LSU over Florida. Hey, Club, good morning. Coming to LSU already. Trey, good morning. Lane Kiffin saga is exhausting. Tell me about it. Y'all just have to wait for me to give updates. I'm the one who actually has to take 200 phone calls a day and record podcasts and all, but it's all right. I'm not complaining. It's good. Summerall said same thing when kept being asked. Morning, Matt. Happy early Thanksgiving in case I missed morning Scone that day. Florida insiders convinced Lane has already signed there, waiting for him to announce and such. I saw the press conference, 100%. He's going to LSU, coming from a diehard Rebel. I think all Rebel Nation is ready to move on with Kiffin. That's the interesting thing. Like the Ole Miss side of it, like the Ole Miss fans, boosters, admins, all this sort of stuff. That approach, I'm not saying it's wrong, by the way. I'm not saying you're wrong for doing it that way, meaning the Ole Miss, collective Ole Miss fan base. But it's pushed him away. Whereas LSU has been like, take your time. Whenever you're ready, come on. So it's just made it a more like friendly way to say yes. And again, I'm not saying that Ole Miss is wrong. Like I would probably feel the same way. If he's leading you to this great season, then he has a wandering eye for a team in your conference, like I'd probably feel the same way. Charlie, good morning. Let's see, not surprised by us hosting Tucker either, by the way. We were in the bidding war for Deshaun Watson, LMAO. We would need to go, he's talking about Justin Tucker, the place kicker. I need to go read up more on the Justin Tucker thing. I know there were allegations and he was suspended. He was never convicted of anything, neither was Deshaun Watson. I think Deshaun Watson settled all those lawsuits, if I'm not mistaken. I need to go read up more on the Justin Tucker thing. Just, I have a loose understanding of what was alleged, and anyway. Hey, James, good morning. Michael, good morning. Fair question. Good to go. The living mornings. It's a fair question. Go. He'd be all right. He'd be all right. He'd be good to go.
Parish Construction and Roofing. At Parish, we've got you covered. From the top of your roof all the way down. Parish Construction and Roofing. Parish Built. Parish Built.
Hey, Matt. Stephen Willis at Locked on Ole Miss said Florida is in the lead. Great. Sure. Thomas, good morning. Clayton, good morning. Who dat? Go Tigers, good morning. Stephen Willis sent me a DM. On Friday. And this illustrates my point. Stephen Willis sent me a DM on Friday saying something that would lead you to believe it's Florida. The thing he sent me, I knew about 10 days ago. That's why I keep saying I think Florida's 10 days. They're 10 days behind the news cycle. I think they are just finding out about something that happened before Layla Kiffin made a trip to Baton Rouge. I don't want to say too much. I'm not trying to. Something happened with Lane in Florida before Layla Kiffin made a trip to Baton Rouge. A lot of media, are just now finding out about that thing that happened 2 weeks ago. And so they are thinking, oh, you see, he's going to Florida. And since then, his wife made a trip to Baton Rouge. They were getting schools in line for Knox. She keeps looking at houses. As I understand it, they're not going to live in the same house. She'll have a house. He'll have a house. LSU has put together their offer. The Board of Supervisors met on Friday to formally presenting that offer. The offer was leaked to Ross Dellinger. A lot has happened since the thing that they all think is new, which is not new. That's the point. Thomas, good morning. Clayton, good morning. Let's see. Who dat? Good morning. Charlie, are you concerned that this is a Joe Oliva, Tom Herman situation? Could be. I mean, there is no doubt that Lane Kiffin is LSU's number one choice. And I don't think they feel like they have an obvious number two. I think the obvious number two to them was Eli Drinkwitz. And I think the fan sentiment has been so negative about Drinkwitz that it's moved them off of that to where I really don't know what they would do as their number two. If it's not Lane Kiffin. Are you surprised Kiffin is letting this drag as long as he has? No, I think Kiffin wants it to drag because Kiffin wants to kick the can down the road because he wants to coach his team. He wants to coach the team in the playoff. He wants to coach to the end of the season and then leave at the end of the season. Ole Miss, however, is not going to let him coach this team in the playoff if he's working for someone else, nor should they, by the way. So I'm not surprised Lane is doing this. I am surprised Ole Miss is letting him do this. But they have a vested interest because Ole Miss really feels like they need to win this game to sew up a playoff berth. Because their concern is if they lose this game and Lane isn't there, then they could be out of the playoff. So if they win, they feel like their best way to win this game is with Lane. Hence why he's coaching this week. Hey, Jason, good morning. Dale, Lane's presser mannerisms look more like Saban. Dale, make no mistake, man. The hand motions, the sort of low stumbling, mumbling thing, like he is mirroring Nick Saban. Yes. Bronco Nation, morning. Hope it's a fair question. Do you think Lane is trolling or is he going to Florida? I do not think he's going to Florida. But I will continue to say over and over again, nothing is done until it is. There is nothing binding. Non-denial, fair denial. Fair question. Chris, Lane's announcing he's going to LSU just before LSU Oklahoma kickoff would be cinema. Morning, Matt from North Carolina. Matt, if Texas A&M and Alabama lose this weekend, Ole Miss could go to the SEC, and this could drag on over the weekend. Could be. Which is why Keith Carter releasing a statement, actually putting a date for the announcement about Kiffin was not a smart thing to do. Like when you self-impose a timeline or deadline, now you're beholden to that. Like if he had said, at some point after the Egg Bowl, we'll have a decision, that would have been one thing. But to say Saturday, he's put a deadline on himself now. Hey, Bob, good morning. What do you think brought the shortcomings of this LSU team that you and others may have missed that you can now talk about? The offensive line, I mean, is I think the cornerstone of everything. I know there's a lot of people who blame Nussmeier, and as I've said, he's part of the problem. But I didn't see the line being this bad, and they're awful. And you can blame misevaluation of high school talent, although the guys they signed were guys everybody wanted. You could blame Brad Davis for lack of development. You could blame scheme. There's a lot of blame to go around, but ultimately it starts there. And when you don't have good line play, you got your quarterback killed. You didn't have time to let routes develop downfield, so you just became a very quick lateral passing game. You had no running game of which to speak to balance your offense, so play action was not effective. And then you have all the issues with Nussmeier, the ab, whatever, to whatever degree that limited him. All of it, but I think it starts with the line. If you can go back in hindsight, I would have spent less on skill guys in the portal, and I would have gotten more linemen. Matchup with LSU's offense, no use defense seems dramatic. So dramatic that a shootout only makes sense. You in the low 30s is just insane. Chris, seems crazy to me that Florida is just as confident about getting Kiffin. Morning, Scone. Jay Johnson said yesterday Kate Arambidi was the best player in the fall. Said Omar Cerna also played well. How do you see catcher first base DH playing out? Yeah, Arambidi, I think, catches. First base will be Zach York. DH, I think Cerna, probably. Matt, is Nuss really injured? Vi feels like he was benched but blamed on the injury. You think he wouldn't dress out in his last two games in Tiger Stadium? Oh, by the way, the quarterback that you played led you to 13 points against a crappy Conference USA team. But sometimes y'all got to think, man. Like, I'm here to answer questions, and I like to chat and do all this, but like sometimes y'all got to think. Like, sometimes you got to do better than that. What if Texas and Alabama lose this weekend? Oh, sorry, I answered that one already. Game in Oxford next year is going to be must-see TV. Hey, Dad, good morning. Let's see. Morning, Matt. Okay, sorry. Some of y'all are asking things twice. Thanks, Ronnie. What up, man? What shoe I listen to on? Josh, what's up? Let's see. Young Citrus, what's up? Andrew Abear, good morning. Jason, what up, dude? Your boy made the paper over the weekend, playing a disc golf tournament. Very top 5 finish. Love that, dude. Congrats, man. Steven, let's see. Gainesville, or Baton Rouge. Lane, Blake, Frank, Corey, any chance? I don't listen. If Lane Kiffin comes, I don't. He's going to bring Pete Golding with him, so I don't know how Blake Baker, unless if you have some Pete Golding, Blake Baker co-DC thing, which doesn't make sense. But the Frank and Corey thing, I think both should. I think both should be retained, but as I understand it, and conversations late last week because there's a lot of words circulating in coaching circles that they're starting to assemble a staff at LSU, which they should be doing, probably should be doing for Florida as well. But that Lane would probably want to bring his running backs coach and his DBs coach, which complicates things for Frank and Corey. But I think you got to find a way to make that work. Yeah, David, what are the chances Baker stays on staff? It depends on who the head coach is. Like if they hire Eli Drinkwitz, then I think it's a certainty. I also think there's a real chance that Summerall gets a bigger job, leaves, and then Baker is in line potentially be the Tulane head coach. Like last year, John Summerall almost got the North Carolina job before they hired Bill Belichick. And if he had gotten that North Carolina job, Blake Baker was going to be, near the front of the line for that job, if not the favorite. Locked on Ole Miss saying Florida is essentially the favorite. Do you have a relationship with Willis? Thoughts? Yeah, I know Steven. Listen, let's say this. I tell y'all often, like, consider the source. Now, listen, there's a big difference between doing a talk show and being a reporter. And I don't mean this specifically to be disparaging to Stephen. Just if there are reputable people who you generally go to for news where you say, yep, they're usually right. Like, look at those people. Look at Ross Dellinger, Matt Zenitz, Pete Nakos, Famel. You know what I mean? Like, look at the people who cover college football, who are the ones who typically break news, and listen to those people. Go follow what those people are saying, not other people. Justin, good morning. Tiger Dagger, what's your take on BK's attorney's letter? Yeah, it's just, so in his buyout, BK has in his contract, he's got a clause where to collect his buyout, he has to seek gainful employment in good faith. And so what the attorneys are saying is that because LSU has done this whole charade of firing for cause or whatever, it's basically made it impossible for Brian Kelly to work. So trying to satisfy that clause in his contract so he can get his buyout. Ex-Silo, good morning. John and Sauls, good morning. Did that cold plunge this morning? Love it. Got mine in, man. As much as that sucks, say it every day, I know as much as those 6 minutes in that cold water sucks, the other 23 hours and 54 minutes of my day are going to be better because of those 6 minutes. Hey, Carlos, good morning. Thank you for the show. Thank you, man. Thanks for being there. Hey, Luke, good morning. What have you heard that makes you confident Florida is out of it? Thanks for everyday content. So, to be very clear, I've never said Florida is out of it. I've said I think Lane Kiffin's going to be the LSU coach. I do not think at this point he can stay at Ole Miss, nor do I think they want him to stay. And I think Lane Kiffin, as last week went along, picked LSU over Florida. However, until the ink is dry and a coach is standing at the podium, it's never done. Good morning. Josh, I don't know why I'm so obsessed over this decision. Reminds me of LeBron when he went to Miami. Let's see. I think Golding wants to stay in Mississippi. That's fine if he wants to stay in Mississippi. But if Lane Kiffin gets the LSU job, the new coach may not keep Pete Golding, and Pete Golding would come to LSU with Lane. Everyone said Saban. BK was Saban-like, and now everyone is saying Kiffin acts like Saban. I don't know that anybody said BK was Saban-like. Who said that? I never said that. BK was Saban-like? I was in Groupie's hometown visiting a friend, went off about putting the elf back on the show. At least my Southeastern Lions are in the playoffs. There we go. Morning, Matt. My comments coming through. There you go, Dax. That's the first one I saw. Dibs on the gold hoodie. Baker leaves. I want to tell him that I want his hoodie. I would tell him that when I see him. Hey, bro, I want the hoodie, by the way, if you go. Damon, best we'll get is verbal to keep waiting till Ole Miss is out of playoffs. Like, again, they're not going to let him coach in the playoffs. They're not. Heard Ole Miss match LSU's pay. Yes, it doesn't matter, Missy. Ole Miss, Florida, LSU, they're all going to pay him. Like he's not going to make a decision based on, I've said this the whole time. He's not going to make a decision based on his compensation. They're all going to make him the highest paid coach in the country. It's going to be where does he want to go to win championships?
Lane Kiffin decides he is staying at Ole Miss. They will put an extension, this extension that's been on
That's another one I got right.
Wherever he goes, he wants to know what the plan is in this next era of NIL. Collectives can no longer just pay student athletes. And from Lane Kiffin's perspective, his fear, as it's been explained to me, is that this clearinghouse is going to cause everything to revert to the old way. Lane Kiffin wants to know from Keith Carter, what is the plan for the next era of NIL? We can't just have the Grove Collective go write checks to I think Lane Kiffin 6 weeks ago thought he was going to be the Florida coach. The fact that he is now staring down a playoff berth complicates the body. I think both sides want him to come. Either he's leaving or he's staying. Awkward. Without direct answers. This whole thing is near.
Man, I've been so right about all this stuff. Maybe y'all should ask me.
They're not going to let this get to the Egg Bowl because what is happening now is Ole Miss, if they're going to be replacing their coach, is behind in the hiring cycle. I think what really is going to push this decision from Lane Kiffin
I'm trying to find a thing about his pay.
ahead of next Friday is not necessarily the Egg Bowl or the college football playoff. It's Ole Miss's opportunity in this hiring cycle to get the guy that they want.
I'm trying to find
Remember, Lane?
a thing about the salary.
On Saturday, Ole Miss is celebrating the greatest crowd they've ever
Sorry.
had.
I was trying to find the one about salary.
The interest between LA.
Anyway, whatever. I'll find it later. People mad at Tucker don't even know about Granderson's history. Scone, sometimes I can't tell if that's a freckle or a blackhead. What should I do? I don't know what you're talking about. Man, I think Lane Kiffin is good to go. Morning, Matt. I know we have to get to Saturday. I'm curious. After further review. Man, I'm like so far behind on comments. Proposed contract would pay Lane Kiffin $3.5 million a year more than Kirby. No, that's not true. So Kirby makes 13.3. Lane's the 7-year 90 that Ross Dellinger reported that averages out to like 12.8. But there are, as I understand it, incentives that could push it closer to 100. So he would end up potentially becoming the highest paid coach in the country. So I love this question. With the new NIL rules, explain how LSU can offer $25 million for the roster. I would love to do that. As a matter of fact, I did that in a very detailed manner this weekend on Locked on LSU. So here's what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to copy that episode and I'm going to drop it in the chat here so you can go listen for yourself, because I gave you a very, 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 very detailed answer of exactly how that works. Just drop that in the chat. And that is why you should be listening to or watching Locked on LSU every single day, because I went into exact detail about how LSU is able to do that better than other programs. It's amusing listening to Kiffin do his voice, mannerism, intuition, imitation of statement at the podium. Aaron, good morning. Morning, Matt. Kind of different topic here. What's the point of SC coaches midweek teleconference? They don't meet during the season. It's like it's 10-minute blocks. So it's just media availability. So where anybody, for example, like the Monday press conference, if you're like a national writer, you're not going to be in Baton Rouge for the Monday press conference. But if you want to ask, if you're working maybe on a story for something that week and you want to ask a question to Lane Kiffin in this instance or whoever, you could jump on that SEC teleconference and there's a 10-minute block for each coach. So the 16 coaches all have a 10-minute block where you jump on the teleconference and you can ask a question. The media that has access can jump on and ask questions. How ugly will it get if Lane refuses to step down while obviously agreeing to the LSU job? Ole Miss supposedly lay down ruin the signing period. Yeah, I think they'll just put him on leave, and then he'll leave. Hello, Matt. We're led to believe Austin Thomas would be a part of the search process. Does it make sense they pick a coach who won't retain him? Austin is not part of the search process. Verge Osbury said that. I don't know who led you to believe that Austin Thomas would be part of the search process. Verge Osbury in that press conference said the committee was himself, Wade Bruce, the new president, Scott Ballard, John Carmouche, EJ Kuiper, and Ben Bordelon. So, Verge said that in a press conference, like on the record. Win or lose, almost 100% sure Friday will be Lane's last game to coach the Rebels. I think that's a fair assumption. See what show it is? Bo Bounds. I'm doing Bo Bounds in Jackson here in about 10 minutes. I wish Shepard was number 2. Doesn't seem like he is not. Shepard is not being considered anymore for the head coaching job, at least as I understand it. There was some early interest from some boosters, but the Shepard, Joe Brady interest has sort of waned. We struggle with Louisiana Tech. Let's not forget that. ND, Western Kentucky beat La Tech. Those teams weren't trash teams, winning records. Wait, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Are you trying to justify the Michael Van Buren-led offense scoring 13 points against Western Kentucky, which was at the bottom of Conference USA? A team that allowed 300 rush yards to Toledo? Like, that's not a good football team. Conference USA is a trash league. And they're at the bottom of a trash league defensively. Oh, my God. No. Good morning. Let's see. Would Brad Davis be retained next year? I do not see that at all. My honest opinion, I think Nick Saban is still laid his best bet. Like, I've literally been saying that for more than a week. That Lane called Nick and Jimmy Sexton and Kirby and a lot of people he trusts, and they all told him that LSU is a better job than Florida. A big reason why LSU has overtaken Florida. Probably big drop off from Braylon Moore, who's your best offensive lineman, to DJ Chester, who is not. Fair question. I don't answer fair questions. Scott, should we be pulling for Bama Saturday so they don't get Kiffin big? No, I'm not pulling for Bama ever. I agree with this. It is never over until the ink is dry on the contract and the coach is standing at the podium. And even then, still sometimes you have Pat Murphy, who's introduced as the LSU softball coach, and then a week later goes back to Alabama. Or when Billy Donovan leaves Florida for the Orlando Magic and then goes back. If LSU gets land on behind a roof, make sure you call Parrish Construction and Roofing. ParrishBuilt.com, ParrishBuilt.com. Let's see. I like Dillingham as backup plan. Do you think that's realistic? When asked about taking another job, he gave denial. Yeah, I don't know that Dillingham is at the top of the list for LSU. Locked on Florida says they got him. Locked on Ole Miss says he's recruiting guys to Florida. Got it. And last week, word started circulating in coaching and agent circles that, it got back to me, that Pete Golding was making phone calls about who was going to join them on staff at LSU. You have to understand a lot of times. Like, do you know how Kirk Herbstreit back in 2007, not to dig up an old wound, but how Kirk Herbstreit went on game day and did the whole Les Miles to Michigan thing? Because Kirk was friends with the defensive coordinator that Les was trying to hire at Michigan. And so if you're Kirk Herbstreit, you get a call from your buddy who's a coach that says, hey, Les Miles is taking the Michigan job. He just tried to hire me. He said he's taking the job and asked me if I wanted to be his defensive coordinator. Like, point is, all of those wheels get set in motion beforehand. Anyway, this is a good one. Bill, don't let no one fool you, Matt, a backdoor Bama fan. All caps, no punctuation, saying that I'm a backdoor Bama fan. Nailed it, Bill. Good one. You got me. I'm just a backdoor Bama fan. You nailed it. Got me. 2 years of Bama is burning has been just me trying to deflect from my Crimson loyalty. Yeah. Every night, I sing Rammer Jammer before I go to bed. Actually, the sound machine in the bedroom is the Alabama fight song. Yeah. You got me. You got me, Bill. Yeah. I actually have a tattoo of Big Al right on my butt. It's great. Nobody can see it, but I can see it. Bill, I don't know how you found it out, Bill. Y'all good, you. But some of y'all are stupid. Like, seriously, stupid. I don't mean to be rude because I don't try to be rude. I try to be very appreciative of people who listen and watch and consume, but I give a lot of my time. I've been on here for 55 minutes now on a Tuesday morning, giving my time to y'all because I love what I do and I'm very fortunate and I have, opportunities to do stuff like this, but some of y'all are stupid. Like, don't be stupid. Just like, what's the old saying? Like, women and sports make men stupid. Just stupid. Just sheer stupidity. Don't let Matt fool y'all. He a backdoor Bama fan. Like, Bill, you're an idiot. You're stupid. I shouldn't say that. That's very rude. I'm sorry. I am sorry. But you're a moron. Like, where are you from? Like, are you, like, sometimes I wonder, like, are you an actual human? Like, you might just be a troll, and I just took some bait. Maybe. But I don't know. Don't feel like that, man. I don't feel like that. Freaking moron. Bill eats crayons. All right. Bo Bounds about to call me to do this interview. If y'all want to listen to that, tune in. Bo Bounds in Mississippi. How about the Pelicans? Tell you what, dude. I mean, the Pelicans stink. Like, they're atrocious. But they did beat the Bulls last night. I did have the game on. And, like, they actually hit on a draft pick. I'm glad they did because they're going to be awful this year. And they don't have a first round pick. But I'm optimistic about the future. I'm optimistic about building around Queen and Fierce because it looks like they actually hit on two young players. Anyway. No, see, Tiger Poppy, like, I don't think Bill's a troll. I just think Bill's stupid. I think Bill is just stupid. Like, you have to take my word for it. Okay, there's my interview. I gotta go. Liz, Matt. Yo, Jackson, how are you, man? I'm doing well. Been a while, man. Glad to hear you. You too, man. Actually, we can roll back a break. Put you on through both. Thanks for joining us. Yep, happy to do it.
Good morning. We are the Out of Bounds Show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. We're driven by your next GMC Sierra truck, GMC Yukon, Fowler GMC, Pearl Brandon. Pre-owned or new, FowlerGMC.com. We're live in the Bank Plus studio. We welcome in Matt Moscona, ESPN Baton Rouge, his show After Further Review, Afternoon Drive. Moscona joins us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. Matt, I appreciate you jumping on. We'll just get right to it. Where do you think Lane Kiffin will coach in 2026?
Hey, Bo. Yeah, this is probably going to shock you. I think he'll coach at LSU in 2026. I'm sure if you ask people who cover Florida, it sounds like they think he'll be in Gainesville. But my contention in following this, Bo, is over the last couple of weeks, I think if you rewind the clock 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I would have said Lane Kiffin was going to be the Florida coach. And I think he probably believed that as well. But last week, things really started to shift. Lane's ex-wife, Layla, his brother, Chris, his wife, Angela, two of their children visited Baton Rouge on Monday, a week ago, as many know. And as last week continued to progress all the way up until Friday, where the LSU Board of Supervisors met an executive session where I'm told behind closed doors, they approved the terms of Lane Kiffin's contract, offered that to him. The terms of that contract leaked on Friday night to Ross Dellinger. I believe everything shifted last week toward LSU. Now, the caveat I always say with this sort of stuff is, like, until the ink is dry on a contract and the coach is standing at a podium, it's never over until it's over. But and we saw that with LSU in 2016. I mean, Tom Herman, LSU was playing Texas A&M on Thanksgiving night, and on the crawl, it was Tom Herman was going to be the LSU coach. 36 hours later, Ed Orgeron's at a podium being introduced as the LSU coach. So it's never over until it's all the way over. But at this point, yeah, I think Lane Kiffin's going to be the LSU coach probably, after the Egg Bowl, maybe Saturday, and I think as early as next Monday could be in Baton Rouge.
Okay, so ESPN Baton Rouge, Matt Moscona on the Out of Bounds show. Do you believe that Lane is still trying to find a way to coach Ole Miss to the playoffs and be the head coach at LSU during and afterwards?
Bo, I think with almost 100% certainty that if the calendar were different, where Lane Kiffin could coach the entire season and then make a decision after the year, that he would absolutely be leaving. He would coach Ole Miss through the playoff and then at the end of the season leave, kind of like if the calendar mapped up like it did in the NFL. I have no doubt that he wants to coach his team. I also, for at least 2 weeks now, have been told with absolute certainty that Ole Miss was not going to let him coach in the playoffs if he's working for another team. And I think that's 100% the right decision by Ole Miss. You can't have your coach distracted working for someone else while your team is in the college football playoff. I mean, can you imagine the entirety of a broadcast with millions of people watching while your coach is working for someone else standing on your sideline? The whole broadcast becomes about who he's leaving for. So, yes, I absolutely believe Lane Kiffin wants to kick the can down the road, delay so he can continue coaching his team. I also believe the powers that be at Ole Miss are not going to allow that to happen. But they're in a complicated spot because they recognize they need to win the Egg Bowl to make the college football playoff. Because remember, I think a lot of people have talked about this now. It's the Jordan Travis rule, right? The quarterback from Florida State. The committee can consider coaches or players that are no longer with the team that would affect the outcome of the games or would have affected previous outcomes. So if they lose to Mississippi State, fall to 10-2, and Kiffin's gone, they could be out of the playoff altogether. So I think from Ole Miss's perspective, they're looking at it saying, we've got to have Lane Kiffin in place this week because he gives Ole Miss the best chance of winning that game Friday, which would all but cinch their playoff berth. And then I think after that, they'd promote Joe Judge to the interim head coach and move on through the playoff without Lane Kiffin.
Okay. LSU insider Matt Moscona on the Out of Bounds show, ESPN Baton Rouge. Do you believe that he could change his mind over the next few days and stay in Oxford?
Absolutely. I don't think he will. And I'm not sure at this point, Bo, and you may have a much better sense of this than me being in Mississippi, but the people that I've spoken to and internally there in the athletic department, coaching staff, boosters, and you can just see it from the fan unrest. Man, it sure feels like the Ole Miss collective program is ready for this to be over and ready to move on from Lane. And I can't say that I blame them altogether entirely. I mean, you're here on the precipice of the greatest moment, arguably, in your program's history, and your coach has a wandering eye for other teams in your conference. So, I mean, maybe there's a better way that you could have gone about doing this that would have enticed him to stay. But my goodness, it sure feels like they've moved on. But that's just my read as an outsider.
Okay. What have you heard about the Chris Kiffin piece? Is a lot of this around Kiffin wants to be the defensive coordinator, and I don't know if you believe that Kiffin's going to retain Baker or if Kiffin becomes the defensive coordinator. Right now, he's an analyst, a highly paid analyst on the staff. I'm not sure. I was told that, Lane kind of thought that Pete Golding would take the job and do a great job and then move on. but Pete and his wife love it there, and he's making $2.5 million a year. So, I mean, it's still a win for Lane, but it didn't get Chris on the field. Have you heard anything about that?
Yeah. So I mentioned that. So last Monday, when Layla Kiffin took that trip to Baton Rouge, her and Lane's children were not with them, but Angela Kiffin, Chris's wife, took the trip with their two youngest, Angela and Chris's two youngest. That was the four that made the trip to Baton Rouge. I had been told that the plan would be for Chris to be an on-field assistant. I've also been told that Pete Golding would not necessarily be in play to be the head coach at Ole Miss and would prefer to come with Lane to Baton Rouge. Now, remember, Pete Golding's from Hammond, which is just like 30 miles east. Now, I understand that and again, this may be something you know far more about than me. Like I don't cover the Ole Miss program every day, but I've found out a lot of things, obviously Ole Miss adjacent, just from following the story so closely. But Pete Golding's wife is from North Mississippi and may prefer to stay there. I don't know their family dynamics. I'm not going to pretend to know anything about that. But what I can tell you is a lot of conversations I had last week sure sound like Pete Golding would come with Lane Kiffin to Oxford, and went so far as, I was hearing in agent circles last week, Bo, that they were already making phone calls, which I think is, by the way, very, very a normal common practice if you're considering taking a job, to see who might be interested in joining the staff. And Pete was part of those phone calls. So I do believe, long-winded answer here, I do believe Chris Kiffin would come. I believe he would be an on-field assistant, but I think Pete Golding would be here as well. The other thing to keep in mind about Blake Baker, if John Sumrall gets a job and Tulane comes open, Blake Baker played at Tulane, and a year ago there was a lot of smoke around Blake Baker. Remember, Sumrall was a finalist for that North Carolina job, and they ended up hiring Bill Belichick. Had they hired Sumrall, there's a very strong feeling that Baker was going to get the Tulane job. So I think there's a really good chance if Sumrall gets a job, if it's Auburn or wherever, it might well be Ole Miss. But if Sumrall gets a head coach, an SEC head coaching job, and Tulane comes open, Baker could very well be in line to get that Tulane job.
All right, Matt Moscona, Afternoon Drive, ESPN Baton Rouge. He joins us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line, talking about all the Lane drama. And it's the biggest story in college football. And he still evidently is going to coach a game. Matt, there are still Ole Miss people that are really wired in that I'm talking to that believe that something could happen between now and Friday morning. They got to win that game. So I go back and forth here. I think he's going to coach it, but this thing continues to get weird and crazy. If, let's say, Lane wakes up and decides he wants to stay at Ole Miss or goes to Florida, does LSU go John Sumrall, or is there another name or two that you think that Burge and them will strongly consider that?
Yeah, I don't think they have. So I had a conversation over the weekend, Bo, and the way it was expressed to me from the LSU perspective is like they don't have a really good number two option. And that's a big part of why LSU is all in on Lane Kiffin. Now, if they don't land Lane Kiffin, let's say he stays at Ole Miss, goes to Florida, whatever the case may be, I think Eli Drinkwitz is on the list. And maybe even a handful of days ago, I would have told you that Drinkwitz was at the top of that list as their plan B. But the fan reaction to that possibility here has been so negative that it feels like that may not actually be the top option. Sumrall would be on that list for sure. Kenny Dillingham from Arizona State, I think, is on that list. And then Blake Baker would be the wild card, where maybe you could sell it as promoting the really popular assistant on an incentive-laden deal. You'd keep your defensive staff in place. And then you look around, Bo. I mean, there's so many examples in college football of coordinators, of successful coordinators becoming first-time hires at big-time schools and having success. You could look at Dan Lanning, Marcus Freeman, Ryan Day, and Sharon Moore at Michigan, obviously Kirby Smart, Lincoln Riley, Brent Venables. It feels like it's becoming more and more common that major programs are hiring very good coordinators for their first head coaching job and having success doing it. So I think LSU could sell to its fan base promoting Blake Baker if it came to that.
Wow. Okay. Matt Moscona on the Out of Bounds show. All right. Florida, they've been the quiet school out of the three. Would you agree with that, Matt? And we know Scott Strickland. It doesn't surprise me. I mean, he spent a lot of time in Starkville. I've known him a long time. It doesn't surprise me that he's kind of the quiet one of the three. You know this. Layla went to Florida. Her dad was a hell of a player. Blah, blah, blah. It's close to Boca Raton, but these guys are jumping on private jets left and right, as you know, so it doesn't take them long to get wherever they want to go, beach or mountain home. Do you feel like Florida is still very much in it?
Yeah, I wouldn't rule anything out, Bo. I mean, I've just, I mean, you follow one of these things, how unpredictable they can be and how much they twist and turn. Absolutely, it could change. Now, excuse me. The interesting thing about Florida is I believe that 2 weeks ago and beyond that they were very much the team to beat and we're probably going to get Lane Kiffin. I think two things happened. LSU fired Brian Kelly and LSU's interest in Lane Kiffin became real and sincere. And the other complicating factor is Ole Miss kept winning, because I think if you inject some truth serum into Lane Kiffin, he would have never thought this team would be sitting here at 10-1 going into the Egg Bowl. And he could have said, let's say they're 8-3, Bo. He could say, you know what? I gave it my all here. I gave you 6 years. We did some amazing things, but I keep hitting this glass ceiling. And then there would have been more justification to leave. This whole thing with them leading into the playoff has really complicated this from that perspective. I think Lane Kiffin has really leaned on people professionally that he trusts, among them Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, Jimmy Sexton. And it's my understanding they've all told him that they think LSU's the better job. And it makes sense for Nick and Kirby. I mean, they were here, right? And they're part of the championship team here. So I believe all of those dominoes last week started to fall in LSU's favor. And there's nothing that's happened, Bo, that moves me off of that. But again, like you said, it's Tuesday. That game isn't until Friday. A lot can happen between now and Friday and whenever they might make that announcement after the Egg Bowl. So I find it hard to plant my flag and say something is definitively going to happen, because when you do that, you generally end up looking stupid because these things twist and turn.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, we're trying to predict what a human will do when none of us know what we're going to do in the next couple hours or whatever. So I get it. Matt Moscona, ESPN Baton Rouge, Afternoon Drive on the Out of Bounds show. Do you believe that, I mean, I'm assuming Frank Wilson will be retained because he's kind of the guy there, knows everybody everywhere. Do you believe that Ed Ogeron will be on the staff too? How do you see this shaking out if Lane does take the job?
So the two assistants that I think universally people here think would have to be retained are Frank Wilson and Corey Raymond. What's interesting is I was also told last week, let's just say from someone very close to Lane Kiffin, that staff and that program, that Lane, if he took the LSU job, would want to bring his running backs coach and his defensive backs coach, which does complicate things. And keep in mind, since Brian Kelly was fired, LSU's only had one decommitment and no opt-outs, which is amazing, especially in this era. But a giant part of that is Frank Wilson. Like every single player on the team has a relationship with Frank through the recruiting process, and they love him. So a giant reason how they've kept this roster and this recruiting class together is Frank. So if it's Lane Kiffin or anybody else, if you don't retain Frank Wilson, that feels very not smart for a lot of different reasons. I would say the same for Corey Raymond, who is the guy that really was the sort of the godfather of the DBU era. Brian Kelly did not retain him. We saw what happened. I mean, nobody saw it better than Ole Miss fans in the 55-49 game there in 2023. And Corey is sort of just very quickly rebuilt that room. So as far as the Ed Ogeron piece of it, I have no doubt whatsoever that Ed wants to work again. Like his final buyout payment from LSU is scheduled for next month for December. So it makes sense. Like his, him being paid not to work ends next month. So he needs to work. So his from Ed's side, his agents pushing Ed for jobs. I don't know that the Arkansas and Oregon State stuff is legitimate interest from those schools. I think Ed would want to coach there. But if he had the opportunity to be $1 million position coach at a place like LSU, he still has his house in Baton Rouge. I have no doubt he'd do it. And he and Lane have a great relationship. I mean, they were on staff together for 9 years at Southern Cal and Tennessee. So they're two different stints at Southern Cal than at Tennessee. So I have no doubt that Ed would be a part of the staff if Lane wanted him to be, provided Lane ends up taking the LSU job. There was a report from Matt Zenitz last week that LSU on their side would be open to it, which is interesting. I haven't heard that. I personally haven't heard that from anything. It is important to note that Scott Woodward, the athletic director that fired Ed Ogeron, is no longer the athletic director. So that hurdle may not be there. So I think it's a real possibility that Ed could actually join Lane's staff if he wanted him to.
He is Matt Moscona, ESPN Baton Rouge on the Out of Bounds show, driven by your next GMC Sierra truck at Fowler GMC, Pearl Brandon. What about Austin Thomas? So he was at LSU, then he was with Lane as a GM, then he joined Brian Kelly again. LSU hired Kelvin Bolden, who did a good job at Ole Miss. You hear anything about those two, Matt, being retained?
Yeah, Kelvin, and then also Jai Shuderi, who was there at Ole Miss as well, got hired this offseason as well by LSU. So the pretty universally here, Austin Thomas is very well respected, super sharp, bright guy. I don't personally I've never had a conversation with Austin about his relationship with Lane. But you read some of the tea leaves, it kind of feels like Austin leaving Ole Miss for LSU maybe didn't sit well with Lane. And also Austin was a Scott Woodward hire. That was not a Brian Kelly hire. Brian Kelly's actually said pretty openly that he never wanted to go. One of the reasons he never took an NFL job is because he liked recruiting and developing and having all the autonomy over the roster and didn't want a GM. And so I think with Scott Woodward no longer being there, Brian Kelly no longer being there, a new coach coming in, it does complicate things for Austin. I know Billy Glasscock is Ole Miss's GM, and my understanding is Lane thinks very highly of him and would want to bring him with him, be it Baton Rouge, Gainesville, or wherever. So I do think that does complicate things for Austin. Listen, I mean, anytime there's a coaching change, you always see upheaval like this. It's part of it. And I think that's one where if I had to guess, Lane would want to bring Billy Glasscock with him, and that's probably what would happen.
Okay. Yeah, Billy Glasscock's done a great job. He was on Sark's staff, and he replaced Austin when Austin went down to LSU. I don't think Austin will be unemployed long because of what he and Lane did on the front end of the NIL portal wave. Do you agree with that, Matt?
Listen, I think the world of Austin Thomas. I think he is brilliant. One of the things he did when he came to back, I mean, this is his third stint at Baton Rouge, Bo. But when he came back, they went up to Seattle and sort of shadowed the Seahawks organization and looked at all the things they did with how they organized player evaluation and salary cap and budgeting. And I mean, it's incredible what they did, what they brought here. So Austin is very bright, very cutting edge. I think the world of him, personally and professionally, to be perfectly candid. And I would hate to see him go, but I also understand that, you hire a new coach and a coach is going to want to build their staff, both front office and on-field staff, and they have every right to do that.
Sure. Matt, thank you so much, man, for hanging out with us today. It's just the wildest. Look, we've all covered wild, amazing stories being a part of the SEC for a long time. Is this by far and away the craziest, wildest story you've ever followed and covered?
I don't know if I could say craziest and wildest story altogether, but coaching search by a mile. And listen, Louisiana, we're pretty good at screwing things up. I think Louisiana and Mississippi, we have this commonality where a lot of times we're first in everything you want to be last in and last in everything you want to be first in. But, from Kelly getting fired to the governor getting involved the way he did and going to be national news, to then the athletic director being fired, to then having a press conference to announce an interim AD, and then the university president, and then they promoted the AD to full-time, and then the university president walked it back and then promoted it again. It's been there was a 2-week stretch there at the onset of this that I would say was the wildest 2-week stretch I have ever seen at LSU, and that is a mouthful. Yes, this has been so bizarre.
Hey, thanks, man. We appreciate it.
Okay, Bo, talk soon, man.
Scone, ESPN Baton Rouge, afternoon drive.
22-minute radio hit. Okay, let's go. Oh, I got a 9 o'clock. I got to go. All right.